All right, let's get right into it. We're dropping into the middle of one of the most brutal urban battles in recent history, the fight to take back the city of Mosul from ISIS. And this isn't some distant battle fought across open fields. No, this is a block-by-block, house-by-house grind. So, who's leading this charge? We're going to be following an elite Iraqi Special Operations Unit. These guys are the very tip of the spear, the first ones pushing into the city. And when I say elite, I mean it. These soldiers are the First Commando Battalion, part of what's known as the Golden Division. They're not just regular infantry. These guys are specialists. They have been trained specifically for this exact nightmare scenario: intense, chaotic, urban warfare. On paper, their mission sounds pretty straightforward, right? Kill or capture ISIS fighters. But here's the catch, and it's a huge one. The enemy isn't in a uniform. They're hiding, just blending in with thousands of civilians who are still trapped in the city. And that, well, that changes absolutely everything. The squad we're zeroing in on is led by First Lieutenant Anmar Alshamry. And get this, he's only 25 years old. 25, and he's leading his men into the Tahrir district, which is one of the most dangerous parts of eastern Mosul. So that brings us to what this fight actually looks like on the ground. You have to forget about clean battle lines. This is a slow, methodical, and absolutely brutal grind. They have to root out the enemy one street at a time, sometimes even one single house at a time. And here's a look at their tactics. It's a painstaking process. First, they'll take over a civilian's house to set up a temporary base. From there, they move up to the roof, set up sniper positions, and start scanning, constantly looking for enemy gunmen and, maybe most terrifyingly, suicide attackers. An 11-year Army veteran in the squad, Sergeant Naif Al-Kairani, really put it into perspective. He said, "The other side of the road is ISIS territory." Think about that. The front line isn't miles away. It's literally across the street. But this fight isn't just about soldiers and insurgents. The most complicated part of this whole thing is the thousands of civilians who are trapped right in the middle of it all, caught in a deadly crossfire. From the soldiers' point of view, it's a constant state of suspicion. They just can't trust the civilians. How could they? Any one of them could be a sympathizer, a spotter feeding information, or even a bomber just waiting for the right moment. That kind of paranoia, it's a heavy psychological burden. And then you flip that coin over, and the civilians are just as terrified of the soldiers. I mean, imagine it. You've been living under ISIS, and now these heavily armed men are smashing into your home. It's a situation just built on mutual fear. But amidst all that chaos, you get these small, powerful glimmers of humanity. In one neighborhood, after it's been secured, a woman named Mariam unveils her face. It's a simple act, but it's the first time she's been able to do it in public in over 2 years. A small act of freedom. So how do you find an enemy who looks just like everybody else? Well, it often comes down to this grim, almost forensic process. They'll isolate a suspect and do a simple check. Look at his trigger finger for calluses. It's a tiny sign that he might have been firing a rifle. If they're suspicious, he gets sent to military intelligence for questioning. And this all points to the nature of the enemy itself. ISIS isn't fighting a conventional war here. They are a shadow enemy. They use tactics designed specifically to create terror and chaos. I mean, just look at their playbook. They launch attacks from neighborhoods the soldiers thought were already cleared. They send suicide bombers to break through the lines. At night, they use mosque loudspeakers to blast propaganda, calling for more attacks. And of course, their most effective weapon, the ability to just melt away and blend back in with the civilians. Inside their Humvee, the soldiers are listening to the local ISIS radio, and what they hear is just chilling. It's an interview with a young boy calmly talking about his plan to be a suicide attacker. It makes the threat feel so real, so personal. And then, the soldiers' worst nightmare becomes a reality. A massive attack erupts out of nowhere, and it's coming from a neighborhood they believed they had already secured. It just hammers home this terrifying point: no ground you gain is ever truly safe. So you can see how for everyone involved, the soldiers, the civilians, this becomes a never-ending battle. The human cost is just staggering. After a night of intense fighting, the sun rises on a heartbreaking scene, a whole new wave of civilians grabbing whatever they can carry and just rushing to escape the violence. And for these families, there are no buses, no rescue convoys. It comes down to this simple, brutal fact. The only way out is to walk. They become this river of people, on foot, just trying to get away from a war zone. So when you take all of this in, the brutal tactics, the civilian suffering, an enemy that can hide in plain sight, it all leaves us with one really difficult question. In a war like this, a war fought in the shadows, what does victory even look like?